The shooting took place right here on Franklin Avenue, right outside this building. The victim, Delia Johnson, was shot in the head, and it happened while people were out here. I spoke to the victim's mother. She is distraught and doesn't know why her daughter was killed. Now, there is surveillance video, and we're going to show it to you, but we warn you it's graphic, and that's the reason why we are not playing the entire clip. But take a look. According to police, on Wednesday at a little bit after 9:30 p.m., 42-year-old Delia Johnson was shot in the head, and you see just that in the video. You can see a woman pulling up in a white car. She gets out, walks up behind Johnson, and shoots her in the back of the head like nothing. She then returns to her car and drives away. The suspect is described as a woman in her mid-20s, heavy build, long blonde hair, and was last seen wearing a black long-sleeve shirt and black tights. Now, the victim's mother says she doesn't know why this happened. She tells us Johnson never had any issues with anyone. She also told me that she knows the woman who pulled the trigger.
Shot my baby in the street. She's come to my home to eat in my house. I can't put it together. I don't understand that kind of violence. I don't understand this kind of violence today.
News alert, U.S. Marshals arrest a teen for murder along with his mother. The 16-year-old Mondrell Newsom and his mom, 41-year-old Sharon Newsom, were wanted in the death of Gerald Leroy Jr. in June. These two were arrested in Louisville, Kentucky just today. Newsom is believed to be the person in that picture there fleeing the scene. His mother has outstanding warrants in Nashville for felony aggravated assault and probation violation. You can always track news as it breaks online at WKRN.com.
Here in New York, police are calling it a brazen, coordinated attack by 4 suspects who remain at large. 10 people are wounded. Authorities say most of them innocent bystanders. All are expected to survive. ABC's Trevor Ault is in New York.
Tonight, an urgent search for suspects in a New York City mass shooting that authorities say was a brazen, coordinated attack. Police releasing this surveillance video from late Saturday showing 2 masked men drawing their weapons, allegedly firing dozens of shots into a crowd outside a laundromat in Queens, hitting 10 people. The video then showing a second pair of men arriving on mopeds, who officials say helped the gunman flee.
We got so far 5 people shot. It looks like a moped was going eastbound.
After they fire at least 37 times that we know of, they calmly get on the back of the scooters and take off. So very brazen, to say the least.
Investigators now asking for the public's help identifying all 4 suspects. They believe the shooting is gang-related and only 3 of the victims were intended targets. The other 7 were collateral damage.
This is unacceptable in our streets of New York City, and it has to stop.
The victims in the shooting are as young as 19 and as old as 72. Thankfully, all of them are expected to survive.
Now dead following an incident inside a Southwest Atlanta apartment.
Information about that child's death and a shooting in the apartment coming within the past 30 minutes. CBS 46's Haley Mason live with the breaking details for us. Haley?
Tracy, people have been coming outside all day trying to figure out what has happened here at the Town West Manor Apartments in Southwest Atlanta on Brownlee Road. We do know what happened in this building behind me. Neighbors telling me an infant and his father are dead this afternoon after a frightening scene in that building just a few doors down to the left from the inn. This all happened just after 8:40 this morning, and details are still developing. Neighbors told me a man named Theo came knocking on their doors, frantically asking for help, saying his 3-month-old son was not breathing. Police were called around 8:47 this morning to render aid to the little boy. While that was happening, neighbors tell me the father went back inside the apartment and then they heard a gunshot. Police say they found the man dead inside the apartment on the floor. The baby then taken to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. I talked to neighbors who described this frantic scene as their neighbor came knocking on their door this morning for help.
He asked for help because his baby had stopped breathing. And that's about it. And he didn't say anything else. So we came, everybody around here came out to see could they help him. And the ambulance had come to see, had pulled up. The EMTs were working with the baby. And I don't know if he went inside or whatever, and we heard a gunshot.
And that father was found dead inside that apartment on the floor, apparently from that gunshot wound. Right now, police are investigating just how the infant died and what went into that death. They also tell me they're investigating to see if a crime was committed leading up to the infant's death. Right now, an autopsy will have to be performed, and we're working to get more details and to identify these people. But right now, I'm told the man is named Theo, and the mother is on her way back to this apartment. Reporting live in Southwest Atlanta, Haley Mason, CBS 46 News.
Haley, thank you. Right. You might be thinking, wow.
With the investigation into the shooting of a New York City police officer. CBS 2's Karen Dillon is live in Foxhurst in the Bronx with new information about the suspect. Karen.
Dina, that suspect has been identified as 26-year-old Jerome Roman. Police say he is well known to them, is from right here in the Bronx, and has gang affiliations. Now, I want to give you a look at some compelling body cam footage of the incident police have just released. Officials say last night around midnight, 3 officers and 1 lieutenant were patrolling in the area of East 169th Street and Lyman Place when they noticed a man they thought had a weapon. When they tried to apprehend him, a struggle ensued that resulted in the suspect firing his gun. Here's more on what happened from Police Commissioner Dermot Shea.
Clearly armed with a firearm, repeatedly telling him to let go of the firearm. During this struggle, we believe the individual fires 1 round, which strikes our lieutenant 1 time in the ankle. It is a through-and-through wound, which then strikes a nearby parked car. The firearm was eventually recovered. This struggle took approximately 5 to 8 minutes. The individual was safely taken into custody with no injuries. I have to commend the 4 officers for the incredible restraint shown on video.
The NYPD has released a photo of the gun, which was recovered at the scene. Meanwhile, we also know more details about the suspect in question. Again, 26-year-old Jerome Roman has 25 prior arrests, which include for possession of a firearm. Roman is now facing several charges, including attempted murder and assault. Now, when it comes to the officers involved, the lieutenant was taken to the hospital and treated. He is expected to be okay. The other 3 officers were also not seriously.
And Adam, police sources are telling us right now the search is on for 2 suspects who are believed to have killed a well-respected attorney.
In a bustling part of Jackson Heights, people stopped today and stared as detectives investigated the murder of a lawyer identified as 65-year-old Charlie Zolot inside his office on 82nd Avenue.
You know Charlie for years and years. He's just a very nice, humble guy.
A janitor discovered Zolot dead this morning. Police sources say he was stabbed in the chest.
Secretaries are really upset by it. It's a little scary. And we do have cameras on the floor, so we asked for that. And so I think they have pictures of what's going on. And I think someone saw some blood by the elevator.
Friends say the Queen's attorney lived alone, practiced law for years, was a staple in the neighborhood, and was always kind.
Never had an attitude, never caused a problem in the building, but it was always very nice.
Very nice and very quiet. Very quiet. Very nice lawyer. Always say, hi, how are you? He's nice.
Police sources say they're looking for 2 men who left Charlie's office yesterday afternoon. It is not clear if the men were former clients or had any connection to the attorney. What is clear to friends? Charlie did not deserve this.
As a lawyer, you're always afraid of some clients that can get really upset with you. And, we're living in a crazy time where people get very agitated very quickly.
I'm shocked because I don't see why would someone do that to him. There's no reason for it.
Investigators have been in the neighborhood all day. They're reaching out to the community, saying if you saw something, heard something yesterday around 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, they want to hear from you. We're live in Jefferson Heights. Mark Santia, News 4 New York.
a major gun trafficking bust involving a group of aspiring rappers.
All right, that operation allegedly brought dozens of firearms from Georgia to New York City. Dan Bowens is here now with the details, Dan.
Yeah, Steve and Lori, exactly right. A total of 9 people arrested, some from New York, others from down in Georgia. A crew accused of smuggling firearms from the south up the so-called Iron Pipeline to the city, riding buses and rented cars to drive those weapons up. Investigators say the suspects displayed the illegal firearms in their own music videos, the aspiring rappers accused of gun trafficking, but the illicit handguns ended up as much more than just props on screen.
Some of these guns ended up in the hands of violent criminals, including one handgun that law enforcement recovered after it was fired at NYPD officers.
While showing the firearms and stacks of cash generated views online, the scheme the 9 defendants allegedly operated is nothing new to law enforcement, transporting the weapons from southern states with lax gun laws into New York up what's known as the Iron Pipeline.
These defendants are conspired to illegally traffic firearms from out-of-state sources onto our New York City streets.
Through a partnership between the ATF, Justice Department, and the NYPD, investigators tracked the guns to the source, a suspect in Georgia known as a straw purchaser.
Someone who pretended that he was buying guns for himself when he was in fact illegally buying them for the New York defendants.
87 guns were purchased in all by the group, including members of the Brooklyn-based Blixky gang. Illegal weapons transported into cities has increasingly become a focus of law enforcement with surging violence this summer. The federal government recently launched several task forces to slow down the problem.
These strike forces are aimed at disrupting entire trafficking networks.
Recently, Fox 5 did an in-depth report on the Iron Pipeline. Some studies show 6 out of every 7 handguns connected to crimes in New York were brought in from elsewhere.
There's an underground economy. It definitely facilitates gun violence in New York, despite your strong laws.
And of the 9 defendants, 6 appeared in federal court in New York and Massachusetts just today. Authorities are still searching for 3 other suspects.
And police are now looking for the man who tried to rape a woman in Washington Heights. This happened on the C train. This was heading towards the 168th Street Broadway station. Officials say a suspect approached the victim, slammed her into the seat, and choked her until she lost consciousness before trying to force himself on her. She was checked out at the scene and was physically okay. But if you know the whereabouts of this man involved, please call Crime Stoppers.
A new video shows you the moment this happened. You see the man starts shooting at another guy on the street. Police say, though, he missed and instead hit 2 people on that MTA bus. Thankfully, police say they're both going to be okay. But we have News 4's Paisy Chang they're in the latest
in Jamaica with this another example of brazen gun violence, Paisy.
That's right, Adam. We spoke to the victim who was shot. It just happened just before 9 o'clock in the morning. He was here getting off this bus stop. He was standing on the bus when suddenly he heard an explosion and he felt a pain in his left arm.
Showing us his wound, 66-year-old Jose Gonzalez recounts the moment a bullet grazed his arm while he was riding this MTA bus. I stood up to get off, and suddenly, boom, and bullets flew by, and the bullet grazed me. I thought the bullet hit me because it hurt a lot. The gunshot came from an incident on Jamaica Avenue, captured on security video. The shooter, wearing a red backpack, appears to have words with another man on the street. He comes back on screen and fires. The bullets miss the man, who runs for cover, but ended up piercing the windshield of an MTA bus, hitting 2 passengers, including Gonzalez. I threw myself on the floor, and the other man was also on the floor with me. I was here to visit my doctor because I have a heart condition. A second man was hit in the arm. He's expected to be okay. The interim president of New York City Transit extended condolences to the victims and said the bus operator helped police.
Got out of the bus.
Unit looking for the man who raped a woman at gunpoint in the Bronx.
Investigators say he was caught on surveillance video. CBS News' Natalie Dandridge live in Tremont with more. Natalie.
Yes, Chris and Mary, police tell us that suspect followed a woman into her apartment building and was wearing some kind of Halloween or costume mask, which he later used to conceal his weapon. And we've been speaking to women here in the neighborhood who say they're nervous he's not caught yet. Surveillance video shows a man reach into his pants and pull out a silver handgun. Police say he forced a 70-year-old woman who is blurred to conceal her identity into an apartment stairwell where he sexually assaulted and raped her at gunpoint. Neighbors who live nearby can't believe it.
Why would you do that? That's your mother. That's your grandmother.
It happened July 27th at around 2 a.m. in an apartment near Belmont Avenue and 180th Street. Police say the woman was hurt but didn't report the incident until yesterday when she went to the hospital for an evaluation.
To be in your own neighborhood and for someone to attack you like that, that's very vicious. So that goes to show you there's something wrong with him. It's some kind of mental disorder. Even he needs help.
Bad, very bad. And if I should catch somebody like that, I'll hold the person until the police come.
Surveillance shows the suspect leaving the building. The man is described as 5'8", weighing 170 pounds, last seen wearing a black do-rag, black hooded sweatshirt, and carrying a red costume mask. And police are hoping with that clear surveillance video, someone recognizes him and turns him in immediately. We are live in the Tremont section of the Bronx. Natalie Duddridge, CBS 2 News.
Shocking video here as a 76-year-old man is shoved against a wall and falls to the ground. Now police want to find the suspect in this video. The victim told the man to stop honking his horn, so police say the man got out of his white SUV and shoved him. The victim was taken to the hospital with a leg injury. If you recognize the man who shoved him, call NYPD's Crime Stoppers hotline at 1-800-577-TIPS. Katie Johnston for CBSN, New York.
New video this morning of suspects wanted for robbing a man in a wheelchair. Police say on Saturday night around 7:30, two men forcibly took the 36-year-old man's cell phone and $100. This happened in the Bronx, 3rd Avenue and East 154th Street. Police say the two suspects then pulled the man from his wheelchair and hit him several times before running away. The victim suffered a cut to the head.
I'm smelling them.